to the One World Quickfire Debates brought to you by Concern Worldwide every lunchtime this week. My name is Emma Hazard from Concern Worldwide, and I will be hosting the debate today. We will be looking at business and debating the motion, all sustainability steps are good steps. Proposing the motion, we have Teresa Hill, Climate Action Support Worker, and opposing the motion, we have Callum McGeown, a PhD researcher in green political theory. Please note, besides, the argument has been selected at random and may not reflect the debater's personal opinion. So without further ado, I would like to invite Teresa to begin today's debate.
Thanks, Emma, and thank you to Concern for asking us to speak. So sustainability is often about balance, and to practice it is to aid in bringing steady improvement to our environment and to the ecosystem around us. It's based on a simple principle that everything we need for our survival and our well-being depends either directly or indirectly on our natural environment. So to pursue sustainability is to create and maintain the conditions under which humans and nature can exist in productive harmony to support present and future generations. So I kind of feel like there's two different aspects to all sustainability steps are good steps, in that it raises awareness and that it actually does sometimes have definite results. So in 2001, plastic bags constituted 5% of the national litter composition in Ireland. So in 2002, the Irish government introduced a 15-cent charge on plastic bags to change consumer behaviour, to give a pause for thought moment, and to encourage consumers to reuse their shopping bags, reducing the amount of plastic bag litter. So initially, the levy was met with mixed responses, with many people sceptical that people would actually change their behaviour. But by 2007, plastic bags had dropped to less than 1% of litter, and the levy is still seen by the Irish public in a very positive way. So one of the key successes of this was that people could actually see a difference. There were fewer plastic bags on beaches and in hedgerows. The effects were very visible, so consumers were enthusiastic for it to continue. The pause for thought moment is key for societal change towards sustainability and can be applied in other places as well. So take, for example, trying a plant-based meal for the first time, shared with friends. Having that positive first meat-free meal contributes to a positive outlook towards vegetarianism, increasing the likelihood of trying more plant-based meals in the future. This also works for fast fashion, for the fashion industry in general. So over £140 million worth of clothes are sent to landfill every year in the UK. If consumers bought secondhand for even half of their clothing they buy every year, that would reduce that to 70 million, but that would also reduce a massive amount of waste, of water reduction. There's so many different aspects to it. So this knowledge is fundamental when it comes to the capability for change. Education and encouraging to choose a sustainable option is much more effective than criticising for behaviour change. Taking an initial small sustainability step will often lead to bigger and bigger actions. However, making people feel guilty about their actions can actually backfire as they feel overwhelmed and discouraged to speak out about the issue. So I just would like to agree with the motion that small steps can raise awareness and can have visible results so that all sustainability steps are beneficial. So over to you, Callum.
Thanks, Teresa. For me, the very idea that we can take effective action on the climate crisis through a long series of small steps is like trying to drain a lake with a teaspoon in a rainstorm. The United Nations first conference of the parties on climate change took place almost 30 years ago. That means that for the vast majority of my life, national governments from all around the world have been meeting to negotiate an international response to climate change. And yet it's only getting worse. At the heart of these discussions, treaties and agreements, and indeed of mainstream politics generally, has always been the presumption that our economic system is capable of solving the climate problem. On a more philosophical level, this is built on the deeper belief that capitalism is the best and the only way of developing prosperous and successful societies. In other words, it is the underlying belief that the loss of capitalism is somehow a greater threat than the loss of a safe and stable climate. All this has meant that global, national, local, and indeed individual responses to the climate crisis have been overwhelmingly characterized as not only being compatible with capitalism, but as actively promoting it. That is to say that responses to the climate crisis are, on the whole, only deemed to be legitimate where they simultaneously promote continued economic growth or at very least do not impede it. For instance, over the past several years in particular, there's been an explosion of green products, from plant-based burgers offered by global fast food chains to eco-friendly hybrid engine cars to green mortgages and sustainable air travel. In another example, one we've already heard, the plastic bag tax is often held up as evidence of how the market can be used to influence progressive social changes by incentivizing consumers to alter their behavior. In this instance, by encouraging customers to bring reusable bags for their shopping. It does not, however, encourage us to stop shopping. So crucially then, none of these come close to addressing the principal driver of climate breakdown, which is the very idea that our economy operates on, that the planet and its limited natural resources can somehow sustain an economy which must always grow to survive. That is, which must always produce and consume more. I'm sure many of you will have heard the climate protest slogan, "There is no planet B." And despite what Elon Musk dreams of, we won't be able to simply relocate humanity to Mars once Earth becomes uninhabitable. Behind all this is the fact that no matter how eco-friendly, green, or sustainable new products or initiatives may be, so long as we're attached to an economic system that requires us to consume more, we'll also be attached to the need to find greater and greater levels of energy needed to produce those goods and services in the first place. And there's just no way we'll be able to simply substitute the huge amounts of fossil fuels it currently depends on with renewable alternatives. Rather than just being an inadequate response to the climate crisis, taking mere steps towards sustainability therefore actually amounts to a very dangerous distraction. It misguides us and encourages us to a false conclusion that the very thing that created the climate crisis can somehow generate the solutions to it. Back to you, Teresa.
Thanks, Callum. You make a lot of very good points there, and ones that I would very definitely agree with. But I think that one of the big things about the steps, the small steps, is that it starts the education process, because realistically, the media, the capitalist system is everywhere. So until we start to have an educated population that knows what they're listening to is false, nothing's going to change. So while I disagree in every way with greenwashing of like major retailers, as you say, like fast food places, fast fashion, everything like that, the one thing it does is actually raise awareness. It makes people go, why am I buying this? You know, what is this doing? And that starts the education process. I know for me, it came about in various different ways. I know other people, you know, it's like, how do you first learn about this? And I know that schools are taking steps to learn, but at the same time, just how do you get over that overwhelming, you need to buy things. So I think that that's one of the main things, is actually about those small steps. So like looking at where your recycling goes, looking at where your waste goes, looking at how your clothes are made, everything like that is the first step, and it starts the education process. So I do think that, yes, it's as you say, what was it, draining the lake, but it is about kind of, we can't get anywhere without the education. And so that to me is the main point of it. Back to you.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that I agree with you there on. I think that the education really is fundamental to any kind of social change. Educating on the kind of ills of the system and what it is needs to change. I guess my only concern is, and something that you spoke so well on when you're speaking for the motion on building awareness and seeing actual results, is that it potentially it educates on the wrong component. And a big part of that is it educates individuals to think that individuals can and should bear the responsibility of responding to the climate crisis and so on, and in how we choose to consume and so on. And that is that very individualized response, which therefore sort of protects the capitalist system on whole from greater scrutiny, because it's always the belief that if we kind of change our ways and capitalism, the market, the economy responds to the demands that we make of it for more sustainable goods and products and green initiatives and so on, that will somehow lead to this greater sustainability transformation down the road. But at the same time, I wouldn't want to say that any sort of small steps are a bad thing. You can't let the perfect become the enemy of the good in that instance. So there's a lot there that I would agree with, specifically around education. I think for me, it is, what do we educate on? And it's not our responsibility as individuals, but the responsibility of politicians and the economic system to make those changes on our behalf.
Thank you very much, Teresa and Callum, for taking part in this year's quickfire debates presented by Concern Worldwide. I think we can all agree it certainly gave us plenty of food for thought when considering sustainability and the impact it can and ultimately must have for the creation of a peaceful, just and sustainable future for everyone. So don't forget to tune in tomorrow at lunchtime to hear local politicians debate the motion "Social media is bad for political debate." Thank you and goodbye.